share some insights on how to think about and work on the transition in our NSTP course. And of course, pare-pareho tayong merong anxiety dito sa nangyayaring pandemya and how we can go about and do our duty so that we can push through with the NSTP course. So before we start, may I request everyone to get their phones if you're not on your phone. And then if you could please go to the menti.com and use the code 281647. So I just would like to know how many of us are first timers in teaching NSTP course and how many of us ay mga veterano na dito sa NSTP course. And also the second question will be, where are you right now in the NSTP transition? So just for us to get a gauge of how we are now in our preparations. Kasi some of us would be starting this August 24, while for UP, we'll be starting in September. So we still have time. So maybe we can give like 2 minutes. Dalawang questions lang naman yon. And then we'll see the results.
Ma'am, baka pwedeng i-ano yung presentation niyo, ma'am, na wala.
Nawala yung share. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, nawala po.
Ma'am Doris?
Yeah.
Volume up, please. Yeah,
I'm
volume.
sharing it again. Hello? Ayan, nakikita na ba?
Ma'am, nakikita na po, pero mahina yung audio niyo, ma'am.
Okay, is this clear now? So do you see the menti.com codes?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you po.
Okay. So that's 281647. Maybe we can have like 2 minutes for you to go to the site. Okay, I'll just transfer to the Menti so we can see. Okay, we have now some answers. The first, okay. So most of you answered number 2. Okay, so we have 3 now. Okay, most of us are still getting the drive start. Some barely started. We have 13, 14, okay, still in the thick of it. We have 15 getting there. Okay. Okay. So for the question, is it your first time to teach the NSTP course? So I see some, well, actually there's a lot of us who have experience in teaching NSTP course. So hindi na ito bago sa atin. Okay. So roughly we can see that the population of the attendees actually have this stock knowledge about NSTP, how to deliver the course. Okay, so if I may go back to my presentation. Okay, so as you can see, the title of my presentation is transitioning the NSTP and building from what we have, because we have to start from what we have. We cannot give something that we don't currently have. It will be difficult for us. So, um, how do we design our NSTP course? So, the past 3 days, we heard of the different models, and also Sir CJ actually discussed about the ADDI model, so I'll not be touching on that. We also have other models. We have the TPACK model. This is the technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. This is from Mishra and Colors framework in 2006. And then we still have other models. So I'll focus on this TPACK model just to give you an idea of how do we deal with technology, because that's one of the main concerns right now. So this is the model of the TPACK. I know some of you may have heard of the TPACK before. So this concerns the technological knowledge, and this involves how we know about the technology, our knowledge about the technology. It's also how we use technology and our capacity to use the technology. For example, yesterday we had the discussion on the LMS. How many of us actually have used LMS before? So if it's our first time, we still have to work on the navigation of the LMS and how to put the content in our LMS. So it's also asking us to recognize the technological impact of the chosen technology. It's not simply, oh, I want this technology to use. Oh, uso ito. Oh, uso ang TikTok ngayon. Yung mga ganun. So we need to recognize, is it assisting or impeding learning? So we have to be careful on how we use and adapt technology. Sometimes we actually adapt ourselves to the technology. It should be the technology should adapt to what we wanted to do. The second will be the pedagogical knowledge. So alam na alam nyo to because you've been teaching. And this includes our methods of teaching, our approaches, the goals, our management in our classrooms, our styles, and also the assessments that we use. And most importantly, this is the content knowledge. So we start from this content knowledge. And this is the subject matter. This is actually the essence of a course. So this involves the concepts, the theories, the frameworks, the best practices, and also the approaches. And most of the time, this is discipline specific. So for example, I come from the communication courses, so it's different from the sciences. And NSTP is also different. And that's what we need to look into. We start with content knowledge, and then we go to pedagogical, and then technological. We will not start with technology. And so, as you can see in the diagram, it actually depends on what we have, our level of knowledge of the technology, and how we incorporate that with the other aspects. So here we have the technological, pedagogical knowledge, and this is the interaction of technology and pedagogy. So the use of technology would impact our teaching. For example, if we will be using radio, we will only be using the audio part. They will only hear us. They will not see us, how we react. And listening actually has a low level of retention. And the most type or approach that will have a higher um, retention of the concepts, and also of what we have to impart on the students, it will be on more senses that are being utilized. So the technology that we would be thinking would have to depend on what do we want uh, to the objectives that we want to have. So technologies have affordances and constraints. So, libre lang mangarap, but sometimes we are limited by budget. So we may want to have everyone to have laptops, but not everyone can afford. So what do we do? So that's the constraint brought about by technology. If they only have the cell phones, or if they do not have the access to the internet, then what do we do? So those are the questions that will be posted on us. Next will be the pedagogical and content knowledge. So this is the foundational areas of teaching and learning. This is how we develop our curriculum, our assessments. So we connect the content with how we approach the learning goals. And then we also have the technological and content knowledge. So this is now the interaction of technology with the content. So um, a lot of us would be asking, how do we deliver now NSTP, which is very much skill based, very much uh, behavioral in its approach for the learning goals? So the content, that content would have to um, think, we need to think about what type of technology would bring out those objectives that we have. So we need to explore the various means to communicate the content. That's why we have to look into all the three, the technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. And this will be the end result of the combination. So we will have different diagrams. For example, if you are more knowledgeable technologically, if you are more prepared technologically, then you would have like a bigger circle here. If you have that limited amount of technology in use and in capacity and in access, then you would have a smaller part. Okay? So we would need to consider the skill level, our experiences, and our access. And most of all, we need to look into the possibilities of all this. And one more thing that I would like to emphasize in this model is that technology doesn't always mean digital or being online. Our use of the pen and paper, that's also technology. And so we would have different aspects of technology that we can use in our course. So where do we start? So as you can see in the previous slide, you have this big circle here, the dotted lines here. These are our contexts. So this can be our institutional context. So first you need to know your context. So I use as an example, of course, UP Baguio. This is the context of UP Baguio. So we are a small unit. We only have three colleges. We have the science, the social sciences, the arts, and communication. Geographically, we are in Baguio City, Benguet, and this is within the Cordillera Administrative Region. In our university, we only have around 600 NSTP students. So we are relatively small compared to the other universities. So I will dig into the specific context of our college. So I come from the College of Arts and Communication, and the students taking communication, so we have the speech communication, the broadcast communication. We also have the journalism, language and literature, and fine arts courses. So when you look at what is the context of the students taking this NSTP course, you may also be guided on what types of activities you will be able to do with these types of courses. So most of our students do not come from Baguio City now or the Cordillera region. So right now, the university actually would not be having face-to-face classes. So we will be having remote type of classes. So a facilitator, an NSTP facilitator in our college usually handles around 40 to 50 students. And I think for now, what we can be thankful for is that we have an NSTP facilitators manual that was created in, or that was written in 2014, which we may be able to use and guide us in our transitioning to flexible learning. So after you know your context, next will be for you to curate the content. So I would like to emphasize now curation. So you will have to curate the content. Right now, it would be very difficult for us to make the content. And as you can see later on, what types of content do we have in our NSTP course? So before we dig into the specifics of the content, we would need to be guided by our goals and objectives. So this is our guide in curating content. First, we will have the general institutional goals, and then the NSTP course objectives and specific learning objectives. So for UP, this is from the UP Charter of 2008. So UP is a national university, and as a national university, its mandate is to lead as a public service university by providing various forms of community, public, and volunteer service, as well as scholarly and technical assistance to the government, the private sector, and civil society while maintaining its standards of excellence. The second one that is important for, and it's related to the NSTP objectives, um, is to provide opportunities for training and learning in leadership, responsible citizenship, and the development of the democratic values, institutions, and practice through academic and non-academic programs, including sports and the enhancement of nationalism and national identity. So, looking at these two institutional goals, makikita natin na it's similar to what the NSTP as a course is aiming for. So, when we did, I was part of the pool of facilitators who wrote the NSTP Facilitators Manual in 2014. And in the NSTP course objectives given by UP Baguio, we have four objectives. The first is to develop an appreciation for their ability to become agents of change. So these are the objectives that we want to highlight in our NSTP for the students to appreciate and to be more aware that they can become agents of change. Second is to develop understanding about the Cordillera. So now we're looking into where we are situated. So in the Cordillera as a major watershed cradle for Northern Luzon. And here we are also home to diverse indigenous communities. And it's a national resource base that is facing various threats and challenges. So this second objective, we can develop. Now, this is also our guide in developing what type of activities do we do that will meet this objective. The third will be to be a vehicle for UP Baguio to respond to community-defined problems that match UP Baguio's expertise towards long-term impact in communities that UP Baguio serves. So we need to look into what types of courses do we offer. So from the College of Arts and Communication, it's communication related, journalism, and then we also have the arts, the fine arts, and then the language and literature. So we can use those expertise to do community service. And then fourth is to complement the existing advocacies of UP Baguio. So UP Baguio's niche is actually on indigenous studies. That's why we focus on the indigenous peoples and what do they need. So the communities around Baguio. So the other day we saw this the draft revised NSTP minimum standards and the common modules. So we have there the disaster awareness, preparedness, and management. And here, as we can see, the scope of instruction actually guides us on what type of content we will have in this NSTP. So if you will read all of that, we actually have four main points. Okay, the first is the DRRM, disaster reduction, risk reduction, and management concepts and principles. The second will be the Philippine geographic profile, and then the Philippine area or the specific area where you are, disaster risk profile. And then this is the most, I think, important or the essence of the DRR part of NSTP, which is for the youth to see their role in disaster preparedness and also in, of course, in mitigation. and then the basic training. So given that we have this facilitators training module, so the facilitators training module, it's intended for the faculty. And we do not give this to the students. It's actually the like the script of the facilitator. So it hasn't been revised yet. It's up for revision. So what do we do with that? What we have is this facilitator training module. So here we can look into, these are the specific learning goals. So this is specific to the DRR part of the course. Okay, and then here the minimum number of hours in the new actually is only allotted 8 hours, but with the module that we did, we actually give it for approximately 16 hours. So it's like doble. And if you can see the specific learning outcomes, we focus on the Cordillera. And it's here, the geographic profile of the Philippines and the Cordillera, and then the hazards. Okay? So here, next we can, this is the outline of this, the outline of the content of that part. So we did not follow the arrangement. Okay, so we started with the Philippine geographic profile. So the definition of hazard, we have the two main categories or examples of hazard, the natural and human induced, and then the difference between the natural hazards and man-made, no, sorry for that, natural events. Okay, and when you have this outline, you will be guided on what will be included in your discussion. Okay, and when you are transitioning, you can actually find it more easy to see what is the essential information that you will impart. Okay, mostly those the top level. Okay, so you have the geographic profile of the Philippines and disaster risk. Okay, so you can do away with all the details later on if you do not have time. Okay, and so we also focus on the types of hazards like the typhoon, the flood, and the earthquake. And then some statistics and rankings of the Philippines in terms of disaster. So the most of us may question the mode of delivery. So for this part, we actually did a video production. So we have 3 videos. First is the introduction. This is the hazard. So this was a video lecture by Professor Digna Javier, who's a geologist. So she she has like 3 videos here, and the whole discussion of this part would only take around 20 minutes. So you have like 3 sets of videos. So these are just screenshots of that. And then the assessment of the students' learning. So we use the quiz type, objective type, just to gauge their knowledge of the concepts. Analysis, we have the different concepts and the impact of the various types of hazard. And then, of course, we do have reflection or a discussion. If it's online, we can do forum, like a discussion forum or paper, which will discuss the readiness of their area or their place to respond to disaster. So here, we now curate the content. We also think about the pedagogy and also explore available technology. So for example, we have these 3 videos available, and so we can post these videos to our LMS. We use Moodle and also Google Classroom. Okay, so the next part will be on the disaster DRRM, and here we expect that the law has been read before the class, and so before the discussion we have like a pop quiz, the objective type, and then you can also share your personal experiences with typhoons, like sino bang hindi nakaranas ng typhoon, no? Parang lahat naman yata tayo. And then they can also mix and match the DRRM concepts and also the phases. So here it's more of the key terms that we focus on, um, like the disaster, hazard, risk, vulnerability, adaptive capacity, and also the framework. So this is more of like a discussion, um, and also the, the composition of the NDRRMC, from the national to the local level. So for the mode of delivery, we have a lecture or a PowerPoint presentation, and we focus on the key terms and organizational chart of the DRR network. So here you can immediately see these are the essential, the most essential information we need to impart. And with that, what type of technology can deliver that? So you will have to first think about what is the content. And then next, you will think about how to deliver that. So this ends session one. So as you can see, we have like 4 sessions. So this is the first session of the DRR. The second session, before that, this is also part of the manual that we made. We have suggested spiel. So sometimes the facilitator may have difficulty on how to start the class, especially for those who are new as facilitators. So we have like a suggested spiel on how to introduce the course, and then some suggested questions for their pop quiz or for transition statements. So you can also do this to if you are making a module here. So the second part is the role of the youth in disaster preparedness. Okay? So this is more actually of a simulation type. So they would identify when we do this face to face, they would identify hazardous areas in the school. So they would walk around the campus and then make spot map, and then they would take photos of what they deem as hazardous areas, and then they would also simulate and assess the, the schools or the university's disaster plan. And we focus on the master area or the evacuation routes. So if they are not in school, they can actually do this within their houses or their community. The second part will be on preparing a go bag. And in a face-to-face setting, we would ask them to bring to class their go bag. And then they would bring out what's in their bag. Okay, so the mode of delivery will be simulation, and then the assessment will be an application of concept and also analysis and critique of disaster plan. So usually, when they bring out what's in their go bag, it will be also analyzed and critique. Bakit mo dinala yan? Bakit yan yung mahalaga sa'yo? Bakit yan ang mas nauunahin mo na itakbo? Parang ganun. Okay, so that ends the session 2. Now, for the third and fourth session, this would focus on the skills training, the basic first aid, and other trainings like the basic life support and the basic not dying. So for this, uh, how to prepare the first aid, and then how to do the bandaging, transporting victims, CPR, and then not dying. Okay. And then the last would be a simulation of an earthquake drill, and to assess the response time and preparedness and alertness. And then they would again be assessed on their go bags. Okay? So for this last 2 parts, we usually partner with the Baguio City Disaster Risk Reduction Office or the rescue groups. Okay? But even if we actually do that face to face, we also have seen in 2014 that there are actually available games available online that they can play with and they can explore. So one of the games that they can explore is this one. Okay, the Stop Disasters Game.org, Stop Disasters game. So when you play this game, it's like building a community and then make it resilient to the different types of disasters. It can be like a flood or an earthquake or a wildfire. And then on their mobile phones, they can actually look for some other disaster-related games like the Fault Finder. So this one is from the Philippines. Now, the Stop Disasters game is from the UNDRR. Uh, with the fault finder, you can see the nearest faults. No, so it's based on Google Map, and you will see where you are, and then the faults near you. Okay. We also have video tutorials. So we have the Project Dina, the emergency survival kit. So what's in the bag? Okay, so because this is from the national, you can also add the local emergency numbers. Now, in our NSTP meeting, we were asked, so what do we do now if we are not face to face? Of course, that would depend on the objectives that we have. So if we would want to have them be knowledgeable on how to do it, we can actually look into the available videos. And um, I think this is so far one of the most helpful that I have seen online. A video from a series of videos actually from the St. John Ambulance. This is based in the UK. So they are a like a paramedic group, and they have various short clips of the first aid training skills that we can use. Of course, we have to look into our objectives. So it's different. The objectives may be different if we are face to face and if we are actually delivering this online. So assessment of students' learning, it can be application of concepts and reflection on of the all the things that they have done in the last 4 days. So our NSTP usually runs around 3 to 4 hours a day. Okay, so that's the first part of my presentation, which is sharing with you how we would think about the courses, okay, specifically on the DRR. So I now go to some thoughts on the LTS and CWTS in the time of COVID. So last semester, we were like in the middle of the semester, and it was cut short. And then, so from that time, we have actually thought of, so what are our alternatives to the LTS and CWTS? So for the LTS, for the face-to-face, we will have like tutorials for reading for the school children. But of course, we would not be able to do that. For the CWTS, we have various activities. We did a an analysis of the waste produced by the university, and some actually opted for vermicomposting and some other stuff. So how do we do that, or how do we think about possible um, activities? So for the LTS, what can be done? It can be like making a weblog. So it can be web-based, like WordPress, especially that our students are from the journalism. We have the broadcast communication courses. So they also use this making video and making slideshows. So we can also do educational audiovisual productions, especially with literacy focused on learning or COVID-19 related um, uh, audiovisual production. So other video tutorials can be specific subject or specific course, especially with, for example, the literature. Okay, they can do some video tutorials specific to their courses. So they would be using their knowledge, their courses, what they have learned from their courses, and then apply it to giving service to their community. So instead of going outside, it can be like the kapitbahay or their own sisters, mga nasa elementary and high school, that they can do service. For the CWTS, they can actually do it at home, like to assess the waste production, no, within the home, so that they can have like a solid waste reduction, no, action plan, and vermicomposting. Um, One of the needed actually right now is how do we think about the food sustainability, no, mga plantita, mga plantito. So we would have like the easy to grow food. So there was a time, it was I think 2015 or 2014 that they helped grow mushrooms. No, madali lang siya, relatively. And then, of course, we can have the COVID-19 related activities like face mask making, ear loop making kasi masakit sa tenga yung garter. And then right now, because it's required, so we can have the face shields making and the health protocols info campaign. So specifically in Baguio, the NSTP program, the CWTS and the LTS sometimes would focus on tourism-related health protocols and also ethics. So those are some insights. I hope I was able to impart and also impart something that you can start working on, and also be able to transition to our goal that NSTP will be flexible. So with that, I thank you and salamat agyaman. Those are some insights. I hope I was able to give more. And also,
thank you very much, Professor Doris Wilson, for the informative presentation. At this moment, the floor is now open for your clarifications about the lecture. Do we have inquiries from the chat box? Mr. Dennis, please read the comments or inquiries.
Isa lang po yung nandito na question na nakita ko.
Please read.
Ito po, ma'am. Dr. Wilson, from your presentation on the DRRM content in UP Baguio, may I know if what you presented is also implemented in the NSTP common module of other HAZE in Baguio City, considering that you are all exposed to the same natural threats?
Hello po. Una po, hindi po ako doktor. And then, specifically po sa UP Baguio po ito na implementation. So the module is actually for UP Baguio po. Although sa Baguio City, the NSTP facilitators or the NSTP coordinators have this organization. The city council actually would meet the NSTP coordinators for some related activities. Pero with in terms of the implementation or the DRR module, this is specific for UP Baguio po. So we would have different activities from the other universities.
Any more clarifications, please?
Sa chat box, wala pa pong nagtatanong, ma'am.
Sa FB column,
hello,
Mr.
Ma'am Cindy. Yes, ma'am, may question po tayo sa FB Live from Judes Alones. Hello, Madam Doris. I would like to inquire if the disaster game can be played for free offline.
Yes po. Actually, trinay ko siya kagabi para just to be sure na working pa siya. So actually, when we used that in 2014, nagbago na siya ng URL. So I have to update. That's the updated URL. So it's free kasi it's from the UN. So yung mga gamers, lalo na yung mga millennials na mahilig sa games, I have some screenshots that I can ano siya, para siyang building, like they have, 'di ba, yung mga games na you are building your kingdom, parang ganun siya. na type. So you have to build like the houses, you have to build the schools, the hospitals, and then secure it. And what I found kagabi nung nilaro ko uli siya is that the more you plant trees, mas nagiging stable yung area. And yung kasi kagabi parang you have this certain number of population in that community that you are going to build, and then you are also timed like in 15 minutes parating na yung tsunami ganon. So you have to build before that. So it's an interesting game. It's well, compared to the other games, it's not Minecraft, but it's aliw siya if you are focusing on the DRR, because like you will think about how do I make this more stable, like the type of houses that you will build. So syempre kapag stone houses, mas ano yun, matibay kaysa dun sa kahoy. So isang hagupit lang nung anong ganon, wasak na, no? So it's very interesting. You can actually try it.
Parang RTS game ka na.
Yes, sir. You're recognized.
Ma'am Cindy.
Yes, sir, CJ.
Miss Romery Lingkod is raising her hand po. Miss Romery Lingkod, ma'am.
Napindot mo. Ano ko napindot dito? Gumagalaw. Sige, tanong ka lang.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Miss Lingkod, you are acknowledged. You may proceed with your question. Sir Ralph, please check if Miss Lingkod is muted.
Is unmuted po.
Nahihirapan siya, sir.
Oh po, sorry.
Mobile pa siya.
Back to you, Ma'am Cindy po. Back to you, Ma'am Cindy. Napindot lang daw ni Miss Lingkod. Thank you.
Ma'am Cindy.
Si Sir Giovanni Ahunin po, meron din po siyang tanong nasa chat box. Sir, you are recognized.
Ma'am, good afternoon.
Good afternoon po.
My question is, how are you going to implement DRM under flexible learning wherein face-to-face is not allowed? Alam po natin, DRM is more on actual, more on hands-on skills development. So, in your part, paano nyo po i-implement ang DRM skills wherein flexible learning is not allowed? Thank you.
Opo, maganda po yung question na yun. Kasi nga, halimbawa sa UP Baguio, we will not have face-to-face. So, remote learning talaga siya. So, dun sa part ng, yung sa first part nakita rin yung meron na kaming videos. So, for the concepts. And then we also have the PowerPoint presentation. So, talaga malaking problema is this hands-on. But they can actually do that and be guided by the videos. Kasi the videos naman are from this mga, actually naghahanap ako na from Red Cross and also from the other mga emergency services. Pero so far, ang pinakamarami silang videos about how to do the first aid is itong site na to from the UK, no? And some apps actually, no, na pwede nating tingnan do sa Google Apps. There are also apps available din yung site na yun sa UK, no, sa Google Apps. Na of course it's a different level kasi mag-isa nila, no? Kailangan nila talaga isundan, no? It's self-learning, no? And then as you can see, 'di ba meron tayong second part. Hopefully, no, kung mawala na itong pandemya, and then we can have face to face, and then we can have the training. Pero for now, we have this context, no? So yun yung sinasabi ko doon sa TPACK na we have this context, no, na hindi pwede ang face-to-face. And so what do? And then we have these technologies. So we make use of those technologies, no? Isang malaking kailangan din natin tingnan is that with this remote learning, malaki talaga yung responsibility of the student, no? To learn, no? Na sila, we are here to guide them, no, as facilitators, as curators. We give them the different avenues that they can use, no, to guide them. Ano yung saan sila pwedeng kumuha ng information, no?
Okay.
Siguro po yun po.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sige pa.
Thank you.
Major Pava.
Ma'am Cindy, good afternoon.
Opo.
Good afternoon, Ma'am Wilson. Thank you so much for your presentation. I just would like to make an emphasis on the wisdom behind why we came up with the 25 hours common module, the minimum standard, because there was one participant who asked if your initiatives in UP Baguio is being adopted by other higher education institution. So for the information of the participants, the minimum standard is there, but the HEI's academic freedom is respected. So that's the reason why we cannot really standardize, because yun nga, yung academic freedom. But Ma'am Wilson, this is a very good initiative, and we have a group, yung PESNE po, under CAR, and you can collaborate with other HEIs, no? So that we can make it more enjoyable and effective yung NSTP implementation po natin. Thank you so much po.
Yes po, that's good to know po kasi ang talaga mas active dito is the one formed by the City Council.
Under CAR, and you can collaborate with other HEIs.
Any more clarifications?
If I may
About
just
the lecture?
share po while we're waiting for para lang makita nila yung itsura ng game.
Opo.
Ganyan siya. Of course, sa gamers medyo low-tech pa to, pero the purpose naman is for them to think about the concepts of the DRR.
RTS nga siya, ma'am.
So that was me playing last night.
Real-time strategy game.
Okay, may question dito. Nasa ano po yung link nandun sa PowerPoint? Hindi ko lang po alam kung downloadable ito kasi it's from the site of the UN. So I played this online.
Again, marami pong salamat, Professor Doris, sa iyong napakagandang presentation and informative lecture. Maari po ba namin itong i-share sa participants para po sa
Yes po.
nakapanood or naka-enter po sa Zoom?
Yes po. Na kay Sir CJ po yung yung final version na PDF.
All right. Thank you po. At this juncture, let us give the floor to our next speaker. He is the Acting Chief of the Manpower Development and Administration Division of the Office of the Deputy Chief of Staff for Reservists and Retiree Affairs, J9. His office is in charge in the implementation of plans, policies, and regulations and instructions related to basic and advanced ROTC, MS3, POTC, MS43, AADT, and MOT and BCMT. Aside from his present position, he is also designated as alternate member of the PAF Selection Board, Bravo. He is a graduate of BS in Aeronautical Engineering at PATS College of Aeronautics in 1990. He entered the military service by joining the Officer Cadet Candidate School Class 14, 1995. He took up different career and specialization courses such as Command and General Staff Course Class 61, Squadron Officer Course, Basic Air Force Officer Course, Aircraft Maintenance Officer Course, Logistics Officer Course, Fund Accountable Officer Seminar, and other related courses and seminars. He earned his master's degree in public management, major in development and security at Development Academy of the Philippines. He received numerous awards such as 3 Bronze Cross medals, 38 military merit medals, 1 meritorious achievement, 3 military commendation medals, 5 military civic action medal, Luzon Anti-Dissidence Campaign medal, and ribbon, and numerous commendations from his different unit assignments. Friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lieutenant Colonel Romel D. Flojo, PAF, GSC.
Thank you, ma'am, for that very kind introduction. To the participant of this webinar, good afternoon. Nakikita po yung presentation ko, ma'am, sirs?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir. Copy.
Okay po, sir. Okay po.
Okay, sir. On the part of AFP, I will be presenting to you the reminders or general guidelines for the ROTC implementation in the new normal amid COVID-19 pandemic. We in the AFP are very much aware of the challenges that we will be encountering on the implementation of NSTP, especially the ROTC component. Before this pandemic, of course, our ROTC is more on practical exercises like formations, parades, tactical inspections, and other outdoor activities that requires mass gathering. Now that we are in the new normal, the AFP will ensure that learning objectives will be attained by adapting on the blended online and flexible learning management systems developed by CHED. This is the reason that the Armed Forces of the Philippines, through the Office of Deputy Chief of Staff for Reservists and Retiree Affairs, J9, crafted reminders or guidelines in implementing Reserve Officer Training Corps or ROTC program under the National Service Training Program, NSTP, in different schools, universities, and colleges under the new normal condition. This will serve as general guidelines in all the implementors or the RESCOMs in the conduct of their ROTC. Out of these guidelines, they crafted or modified their POIs that will ensure effective learning to their students. Later on, yung second part is yung ating Chief of Staff ng RSCO mag-represent ng kanilang ginawang na-modify na POI nila to suit the learning objective of our ROTC programs. And ma'am, considering the force majeure nature of situation, students undergoing ROTC training during the second semester of school year 2019 and 2020 shall be considered to have completed the program of instruction for the said period, regardless of the stages or phases of the program that was actually undertaken. Of course, siguro itong item na to is marami siguro nagtatanong, so para mawala na yung kanilang agam-agam or something on their mind, ito po yung magiging guidance natin sa lahat ng schools. Components of NSTP shall be offered by all schools, universities, and colleges with activated and affiliated ROTC units nationwide. And for information, as per record dito sa amin is we have total of 738 schools na nag-ano ng ROTC nationwide, composed of Army, Air Force, and Navy. And the adoption of blended online and flexible learning system developed by the Commission on Higher Education is highly encouraged in the implementation of ROTC programs, provided that the quality of the program of instruction shall not be compromised. Of course, a while ago, nag-lectures, and the previous day, nag-lecture yung ating mga subject matter experts on how they will do yung kanilang blended online and flexible learning system. So our ROTC units will be adapting to this type of learning systems, sirs and ma'am. And of course, the appropriate alternative learning platforms may be utilized by the ROTC administrator, subject to the approval of school administrator or management. That is the use of electronic and non-electronic learning methods, modules, self-directed learning activities, and simulations, among others. This is to achieve the required academic period, including evaluation and assessment as prescribed in the ROTC, shall develop modes of learning platforms suitable to the environment. That is webinar, virtual classroom, instruction, online lectures, examination, and other similar systems that will effectively achieve the terminal learning objectives of the ROTC POI. And for information pala, earlier this morning, meron ako naging bisita na school commandants na dito sa may 4th RCDG, dito sa may Laguna area. And I'm happy to note na nagkaroon na sila ng initiative to have their yung video presentation regarding sa mga drills. Gumagawa sila ng para ma-present nila through Google Classroom. And yun yung sinabi nila. And we appreciated that initiatives ng ating mga schools na gumagawa na sila ng ganong system of learning sa kanilang students para ma-deliver yung learning objectives natin. Of course, ROTC POI shall be reviewed to come up with an achievable, modified, and effective implementation, maximize the use of electronic platforms and distance learning for theoretical instructions and practical exercises in consonance with the protocol issued by the Interagency Task Force or IATF for COVID-19. Of course, we are aware na iba-iba yung protocols and health protocols and IATF guidelines ng bawat areas. Merong yung area na GCQ, MECQ, ECQ. So mag-base tayo kung saan located yung ano, gaya ng Army, Air Force, and Navy. So, actually, I have talked to, mamaya nagle-lecture naman yung ating Chief of Staff ng ARESCOM, si Sir Acodia. And nakausap ko rin yung Air Force kanina and the Navy na actually they have plans already. Yung Philippine Air Force has the business continuity plan in new normal na nag-develop na sila ng Google Classroom, PowerPoint presentation during yung practical exercises na yung pagkakalas ng barrel, disassembly and assembly. So they are initiating lectures na para yung mga practical exercises is ma-deliver natin sa estudyante na through online or yung mga distance learning para hindi na kasi ang iniiwasan natin is yung mass formation or mass gathering. So wala na sila roon, papanoorin na lang and yung mga rescoms natin, yung mga implementors, gumawa sila ng measures para ma-assess nila yung mga estudyante kung paano yung grading system nila. So they have already laid their plans in line with these guidelines. So ROTC administrators are advised to adopt measures to safeguard the health and safety of their students, instructors, and staff during ROTC instructions. Given the different community quarantine policies among various localities, appropriate protocols must be ensured relative to the implemented community quarantine. Just what I have said before na different areas implement different quarantine procedures and so yun yung course na they will adapt to the measures in their areas para safe din yung ating mga instructors as well as their students. And ROTC administrators must be well informed of the guidelines from school administrators, CHED and INTF on the protocols for the COVID-19. So from time to time, yung ating ROTC administrators, mga commandants and reserve centers, they will coordinate with the school administrators so that yung kung ano yung mga procedures na ginagawa, health procedures and protocols ay maipatupad nila at magawa nila ron sa kanilang areas. With that, that ends my presentation and good afternoon to everyone.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Loho, for your presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
At this moment, the floor is now open for your clarifications about the presentation.
This presentation, ma'am, is a general guidelines from our forces of the Philippines na i-adapt ng ating mga reserve commands, which will be yun yung kanilang basis ngayon ng ginawa nila na ma'am, research ng kanilang implementing plans para magawa yung kanilang POIs na modify. So ganun po yung kanilang i-implement this coming school year.
Mr. Mauro, nag-raise po ng hand. May question kayo, sir? Sir, naka-mute kayo.
Sir, opo, nakita ko po rito yung question, yung ROTC drills. And gaya nga nung sinabi ko, sir, ma'am, actually yung we discourage yung ganong mass gathering kasi because drills and ceremonies is specified to have to deliver yung paano malalaman ng ating mga estudyante kung paano mag-drills gaya ng sinabi ng ating mga previous lecturers dun sa si ma'am kanina kung paano natin maano yung learning objectives ng paano yung sa mga disasters kung paano ma-actual so meron yung virtual gaming na ano so nag-develop ang ating mga implementors kung paano nila i-deliver na malaman ng mga estudyante kung paano yung proper salute, proper standing in attention, yung mga basic drills and ceremonies. So without the yung formation ng mass gathering kasi we discourage yung ganong klaseng activity. Yung formations, gatherings kasi masyadong magkakalapit yung mga ano. So if needed, pwedeng yung parang yung mga instructors may mga safe distances sila i-demo nila kung paano gawin yung mga execution ng commands, kung paano nila matutunan and in return yung mga estudyante i-video nila yung sarili nila para makita ng mga evaluators or yung mga instructors nila kung natuto sila doon sa mga i-relay nila na lectures. So ganun po ang pwedeng implement ng ating mga administrator, ROTC administrators.
Lieutenant Colonel Flojo.
Yes, ma'am.
Question.
Meron pong FB comment, may revised POIs na po for the new normal.
Meron po ma'am ginawa ang mga reserve center. Mamaya po yung second presenter, yung sa Army, ipapakita po niya yung kanilang ginawang modified POI nila. So, same is true. Yung Air Force din, nakausap ko, meron din silang, actually may mga sinagmit yung Air Force, Army and Navy na yung mga modified nila, kung paano nila gagawin yung ROTC during this new normal.
Question, ma'am.
Sir Nars,
Yep.
please proceed with your concerns.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Cindy. Mr. Candisa po sa Region 8. I would like to clarify, sir, in your presentation in item number 2, which is ROTC program as one of the NSTP component shall be offered to all universities and colleges. Is it mandatory to all colleges and universities that the ROTC shall be offered as one of the component of NSTP?
Yes, sir. Actually, according to law, it should be offered dapat, sir. But unfortunately, per experience po, hindi po lahat na kukumpleto yung ating 3 components sa ROTC program, sa NSTP program. And per law, dapat meron siyang nakukumpleto natin yung 3 components. Kasi siguro po, yung merong wrong perception siguro na pag sinabing ROTC is puro pahirap na nagpaparada and I'm very much aware po sa mga ganung perception pero hindi naman po ganun. More on ang ROTC po kasi is meron po tayong mga lectures, napakarami pong lectures and part lang po yung mga military drills and formations. So ganun po. Pero doon sa NSTP law po, dapat 3 components po siya. Kompleto po dapat.
As a follow-up question po, sir. Even those private HIs na wala pong 350 in ROTC student, they can offer ROTC?
Yes, sir. Actually, ang ginagawa po ng mga schools is meron yung affiliated schools na parang naka-ano sila ron, naka-affiliate sa schools nila. Kung halimbawa yung isang school, na-affiliate doon sa isang school para makumpleto. Kasi may requirement po tayo. We are aware for that po. And ina-affiliate po siya. Kaya yung pangalan ng schools na yun yung dinadala po nila.
Sorry, ina-clarify ko lang po kasi dapat 350 enrollment
Yes, sir.
tayo doon sa ROTC.
Yes, sir, tama
na
po kayo.
makakapag-offer po yung school, hindi po yung lahat po ng... Thank you po very
Yes,
much.
sir.
Thank you very much. Yun lang po.
Yes, sir. Thank you po, sir. Thank you for that question, sir.
you.
May I comment, Ma'am Cindy?
Yes, Dr. Flor.
I just want to make some rejoinder regarding this the answer a while ago. That as per RA 9163, all the three components must be offered in the schools, especially for state universities and colleges. So those schools who don't, those schools with enrollees, like private schools with enrollees, on our ROTC, they can cross-enroll it to the nearby schools who are having the unit. But for those who have unit, like the state colleges and universities, they offer even if they have lower than 350 students. But to private schools, if they really wanted to offer one, they should have their unit with a 350 number of students. If not, they have to cross-enroll to any of the adjacent schools offering ROTC. But the principle here is offer. All HEI will offer, but depending on the choice of the students. But if they cannot compose the 350, then they cannot offer. They cannot open, or they cannot have a unit within the university. But to some, because they are very insistent of having one, they have to coordinate with the J9 or any group in the military
Actually,
to establish their own unit, because they are very supportive of that.
yes, ma'am.
So
The reserve
even
centers,
if they have lower than 350, provided that the school and the students are very interested, and with the strong support of the ROTC sector, according to practice or based on observation, they open.
Yes,
but those universities or colleges, especially private schools, do not have. Usually they cross-enroll with HEIs adjacent to the area. For those students who are really interested to take the ROTC, they will join. So that at least we will not be compromising the interests of the students. Actually, that's the scenario that happened during the previous years.
Yes, ma'am.
Salamat po.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're correct, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for that info.
Okay. Back to you, Ma'am
Eugene, meron
Cindy.
pa bang concern sa FB comments?
Sirs, ma'am, actually, may second part ng presentation para ma-appreciate nyo yung POI na ginawa or para yung ginawa ng Arescom, ipe-present po ni Sir Alcudia ngayon, sir. Ma'am.
Hello, Ma'am Cindy.
Okay, with that, let us now, yes,
Here.
Major Paba.
Yes, Ma'am Cindy.
Hindi po si Ma'am Cindy, hindi si Sir Papa yung...
Sherwin po.
Sherwin,
Okay,
si Sherwin.
you're recognized po.
I'm Sherwin Marciano po from St. Mary's University, Bambong. Yung tungkol po dun sa enrollment po, ang experience po ng St. Mary's University po, kahit po wala po kaming 350 estudyante sa ROTC, ay pinagpapatuloy po namin po yung ROTC even though we are a private school. Just because in section 4,
because you have
meron po tayong po dito
unit kasi.
Guidelines po. So, basta yun po sabi po ni Madam kanina, Madam Gabugen, yung interest po kasi ng school at saka estudyante to
pero yan po yung contribute para yan po yung
Sir, mahina yung audio niyo, sir.
Hello po. Hello?
Sir Serwin, mahina yung audio mo.
Oh my gosh. Hello po, hello. Wala.
Go ahead po, go ahead.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am Cindy. Okay na po ba?
Okay.
Yes, sir, please
Go
proceed with
on,
your concerns.
Okay po. Ang experience po namin dito po sa St. Mary's University po, kahit wala po kaming 350 students po, in-offer po namin ang ROTC as one of the components po. We are offering 3 components. This because in the guidelines, in the IRR,
Wala audio niya.
section
May
po,
audio siya problem.
meron po dito po, guideline po tayo. Okay lang.
Okay
Narinig
po.
po ako?
Noted.
Okay po.
Noted na, Sir Serwin.
Okay, thank you very much po sa inyong clarifications, response, and then sa rejoinder. Let us now go to the next speaker.
Thank you, ma'am, sirs.
At this point, let us give the floor to our next speaker. He is a graduate of the Philippine Military Academy, class of 1993, and was commissioned in the Philippine Army and first served with the 4th Infantry Division in northeastern Mindanao. He would later serve in various staff and command designations in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, including command of Army training groups, before his tour as battalion commander covering South Cotabato and Western Sarangani. He holds a Master in Development Management degree from the Asian Institute of Management. In 2000, he completed military local career and specialization courses. In 2009, he completed the Australian Command and Staff course in Canberra, Australia, where he also earned a graduate certificate in Management of Defense Studies from the Australian Defence College and a graduate diploma in Defence Studies from the University of New South Wales. Last year, 2019, he completed the Masters in National Security Administration MNSA program at the National Defense College of the Philippines, and his study contributed to the creation of the NSTP Joint Committee Technical Working Group on the revision of the Implementing Rules and Regulations series of 2009. He served as Assistant Commandant of 2 Reserve Officers Training Corps units of the UP in UP Diliman in 2007 and in UP Los Baños in 2016 during his tour as director of the 403 Laguna Community Defense Center. He is currently the Chief of Staff of the Army Reserve Command, ARESCOM, based in Camp Riego de Dios, Tansa, Cavite. Friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Colonel Ronald Jess S. Alcudia.
Ma'am, good morning and to all the participants. Sorry, good afternoon. Ma'am, can I check my signal kung kamusta po?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ma'am, can I share the screen?
Go ahead, sir.
Sir, you may share your screen now po.
Is the screen visible already?
Not yet, sir. Not yet.
Sandali. Sandali. Ano ko ba ito, ma?
You have a screen now, sir.
Okay, how is the screen now? Nakikita na po?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. To all the participants, good afternoon. I'm Colonel Alcudia. I'm the Chief of Staff of the Army Reserve Command. And I would like to thank the Commission on Higher Education and PISNE for giving us this time to share about the Reserve Officer Training Corps program. I'd just like to clarify that this is just the Army ROTC. As mentioned by Lieutenant Colonel Flojo, we have the Navy and the Air Force programs guided by the general guidance from the general headquarters of the AFP. So I will just be building on the presentation of Colonel Flojo. My presentation will follow the sequence. Please allow me to give you a background on the basic ROTC para rin may idea on why we changed or maybe revised the POI for John. As I understand, parang curriculum guide ata ang ginagamit dito. Okay. So just some background, the program is actually founded in 1912 when the University of Philippines was initially established, although UP was created in 1908. And then noong 1922, merong mga kinreate na Department of Military Science and Tactics. This department, up to this day, is the one responsible for ROTC training in all our higher education institutions. So we have DMSTs for the Army ROTC. For the Air Force, it's Department of Air Science and Tactics, and the Department of Naval Science and Tactics for ROTCs handled by the Navy Naval Reserve Centers. So, of course, it started as a preparation for wartime in the Commonwealth period. There is a provision that it's established in all universities. It's our ROTC units in 1939. Now, in the post-war, natuloy pa rin naman ito. There was a 2-year basic program in tertiary schools. For those of my age group, we had a 4th-year high school citizen army training. Now, in the 1980s, merong national service law that was passed where there were 3 programs offered. That's why in 1984, nag-expand yung ROTC. There was a period where the first year was a military training, and then the student had an option in the second year to take military training, community welfare, and the other component. In 1991, nung lumabas itong Reservist Act natin, established in the law was the mandatory basic ROTC, 2 years, and then a voluntary. In that provision, nung basic military science 11 and 12, and then 21 and 22. But when Republic Act 9163 or the National Service Training Program Law was passed, this was amended. So what changed is there were other components, no? The CWTS, the Civic Welfare Training Service, and the LTS. Now, I just wanted to show this slide because this was one of the reasons why the current IRR is under review. We are looking at how the National Service Corps could be operationalized since the greater number of our students take the CWTS and LTS. Siguro maybe unknown to some of our graduates, if you finish from CWTS and LTS, you are also a reservist. You are given a serial number, and in the event of a national emergency, our NSRC reservists can be tapped by the state. So siguro in a situation like this pandemic now, isa yon sa mga maaaring mangyari, except that we have not operationalized this for the past 17 years. That's why that is one of the reasons why we are looking at the IRR. Now, yung effect of that NSTP law, it used to be that basic ROTC was covered in 2 years. Now it is covered in 1 year, compressed into 1 semester. Yung Military Science 1 and Military Science 2. Now, what happened here is we want the same competencies for a reservist, but we have reduced the time to develop that. Nagkaroon pa ito ng disruption when the academic calendar was moved to August, and we implemented the 25-hour common module. So what happened was the first semester na Military Science 1, which covered 60 hours, na-reduce na yung time that we can offer it, considering that there is a fixed number of 15 training days for every semester. So that is one of the problems that we have faced in implementing the ROTC program of instruction. Now, this is just a slide to show to the body who are the implementors of our ROTC program. The Army Reserve Command is based here in Tansa, Cavite. We have 15 regional community defense groups spread all over the country in covering the regions as shown in the slide. And these regional community defense groups, meron on the provincial level, we have community defense centers. And these community defense centers supervise our ROTC units. So as mentioned earlier by Lieutenant Colonel Flojo, there are 738 AFP ROTC units. The Army is administering the majority of that, spread all over the region. Yung affiliated, ito yung mga higher education institutions that may not have the required number of minimum number of graduates. So nag-affiliate sila with an activated unit. But it's true also that there are activated units previously who do not have the 350 enrollees, but they still maintain the ROTC unit. In fact, in the ongoing technical working group review, what we are pushing for is a reduction of that threshold, so that we can have ROTC units in schools that do not have the 350 number, but just to meet the intent of the students who want to undergo the program. Now, these are the guidelines that were presented, included in the presentation earlier on the program of instruction. So, kanina naririnig ko, may mga discussions, how do we deliver it now that in this new environment, and most of our activities are exercises. So what we did in the Army Reserve Command is we reviewed the program of instruction because we saw that merong mga repetitions na nangyayari. And maybe this is not the same case for CWTS and LTS, because we have an advanced program wherein we also offer a different, a higher training for those who want to volunteer to pursue further training. So in the case of the Army Reserve Command, we developed a revised program of instruction focusing on 6 modules. So dati kasi isang mahaba lang siya na program of instruction to complete the 60 hours. But we developed a progressive program of instruction leading to the advanced course, and even after that. I'll show that in a slide later as a way also to inform our universities, our NSTP directors of why we changed the POI or revised it to suit not only the current environment, but also the requirements of the Philippine Army, because we are now in a process of recruiting more officers for our regular force. So I'll be presenting, this is the proposed POI for MS1 and MS2. At present, we are developing the materials necessary to deliver this over and above the infrastructure and the platform that will be needed to deliver the kind of training we want amidst the environment of the pandemic. So this is what we hope to develop in the military character development module. This is for the first semester. So makikita lang dito, marami rin yung scope niya. But actually, this is already a reduced scope because in the previous year's POI, masyadong maraming nakalagay na topics yung ating mga requirements. So for example, for those of you who are familiar with the ROTC, at the end of the year, we expect everybody, the cadets, to be able to join a big parade, no? Isang graduation parade. That is not what we intend to do this year because, una, it will not be feasible given the conditions, and also, we want to focus on the basics, noting that MS1 is an introductory subject to higher military training for later. So this is the military character development module. This is the military knowledge module. So some of the topics here are adjusted to suit our current environment. So when we say that, nandito yung IED. So what is IED? IED is improvised explosive devices. These are really information that are needed. Awareness lang naman ito, identification, because this is what is present in our environment. Maybe not so much here in Luzon, but for people in Mindanao, this is really included some awareness on cybersecurity. So all of these are really instructional, hindi face-to-face ang magiging requirement dito. And the hygiene and sanitation is something necessary for our environment. Now, of course, hindi naman mawawala ito yung military skills development. So again, survival techniques is something that we want to bring into the curriculum or the program of instruction because we feel that this is something that the young students would be interested to learn, and also in terms of individual and collective training. So itong weapons proficiency, magagawa naman natin to without the physical interaction, except that the assembly and disassembly may have to be done at a later period. That's why we're looking at bring some of the physical training to the second semester. So for the first year, for the first semester, that covers our 60 hours. Now, if you notice, there's a physical OI. It will not be included in our program training, but what we will do is provide the exercises or what we do in the Army to develop the physical fitness of our personnel. And it is something that the students can do on their own while they are at home, or even yung tawag nga outside of the training hours that are allocated for ROTC. Now, proceeding to MS2, this is the second semester. These are derived also from our previous curriculum. In-adjust lang namin dito sa second semester. And you'll see that most of these are also basic. Katulad nitong drills and ceremonies, hindi ito yung parada talaga. And this will include just the stationary marchings, manual of arms. As mentioned by Colonel Flojo, one of the ways by which we want to deliver this is through instructional videos. And group that there are some areas quarantine status. So there are areas in Mindanao that will allow physical face-to-face communication. That's why in general, what we have is just guidelines to our ROTC units, because each ROTC unit will have to develop their plans based on the community quarantine status in their localities, and also kung ano yung coordination nila with the higher education institutions. So this is the military leadership module and the military knowledge module. Na-mention na rin dito yung the Army's role in disaster management. To Ma'am Wilson, I asked the question earlier about the DRRM doon po sa presentation ninyo, ma'am, because I was in Baguio when the earthquake happened in 1991. So I was thinking that maybe the different HEIs in a locality would have the same disaster appreciation, because those are the threats that they face na pare-pareho naman sila. Now, these are the individual military skills. Again, we focus on the life-saving, survival, and map reading. Kasi itong map reading, marami talagang kailangan dito na practical. So we place this in the second semester on the assumption, hopefully, that the environment will be more permissive to physical interactions. But again, this can still be delivered through online or through reading materials, and then the practical exercises can come later. And then a continuation of the other modules. So dito na yung collective module after the individual. Again, this will require really some face-to-face. Hopefully in the second semester, it will be more permissive. So again, it covers 60 hours for the second semester. Now you will see there are some integrating exercises that we planned. Ito naman kung mapapait. Because all of the skills that the basic cadet learns in the first 2 semesters will have to be applied in a integrating exercise. So siguro ito yung naririnig ninyong RAATI, yung regional annual tactical inspection. So we are looking into a different way on how we evaluate the knowledge and the attitude skills gained by our cadets throughout the 1-year program. Now, please allow me to just inform the body why binago rin namin yung basic ROTC POI. The basic ROTC is really the gateway. No? By the name itself, it's a reserve officer training corps. So taking the basic course is a gateway for a student to become an Army commissioned officer. Now, unlike the other program components, what we build as a foundation for MS1 and MS2, we have a progressive program, while the cadet who volunteers for the advanced course is still in the university. Ito na yung part ng kanyang military officer training. The first part kasi, rifleman or the infantryman is what we want to develop. Now, it does not stop there, because those who volunteer can proceed to what we call a probationary officer training course. This is conducted here in Cavite But we have decentralized this. We are opening one in Mindanao soon to cater to the students who want to undergo the program but do not want to go to Luzon with all the problems and the expenses required. But ang dulo talaga nito is we want our graduate to be a ready platoon leader for commissionship in the Philippine Army. So it's really a progressive program. So how do we adapt to the new normal? As mentioned by Lieutenant Colonel Flojo, our ROTC units in the Army have been instructed to develop blended and flexible learning systems. Of course, in coordination with the higher education institutions where our Department of Military Science and Tactics are situated. Hindi naman sila magiging independent because they will also work within the same digital infrastructure using the same online protocols kung ano yung ino-offer in the academic and even in the CWTS and LTS. That's why it will now provide more integration. In fact, one of the discussions earlier is about the cross-enrollment. Before, mahirap yung cross-enrollment because it becomes very tedious for the student to be enrolled in one HEI and then take his ROTC in another. But because we are now offering the ROTC and maybe most of the classes will be online, then integrating just be a problem of administration, yung nandito yung kanyang ROTC zone sa kabila. Now, I mentioned this already that the subjects that we presented will have to be developed by the ROTC unit into a master training schedule that should synchronize with the different community quarantine conditions. And I mentioned that there is a flexibility of transferring the practical exercises in the second semester if the environment then will be more permissive than now. So our ROTC instructors must be well informed of the transition of the different quarantine conditions. Kasi as we see now, hindi naman ito tuloy, hindi siya yung parang fix, no? At times, there will be some movement depending on local transmission, on how the interagency task force determines a situation in one area. It affects travel, gathering, how our schools operate, and things that will impact on how we deliver the ROTC and also the other program components of NSTP. And na-mention na rin ito, yung alternative learning platforms and yung required training period, while we really aspire to meet the required number, this is the first time that we will be doing this. That's why we recognize that there might be some shortfalls. That's why we want flexibility for off-POI and asynchronous learning. Kung kunyari video or a PowerPoint that can be downloaded and the student can do some self-learning, then that can be an option. That's why we are aspiring to develop standard presentation and materials, at least for Army ROTC units, that will be applicable wherever you are. Kasi yun nga yung isang naging problema din namin. Of course, na-mention earlier about the academic freedom of higher education institutions, the autonomy that they enjoy. But insofar as Army ROTC, we want to have a standard base of knowledge so that when they come together in our higher training, we are at least assured that they have the foundation for what we intend to deliver in the officer training program. Now, this was taken from the draft guidelines that was provided by CHEDCO-OSDS. So ito, binigay na rin namin ito sa aming ROTC units so that they will be guided on what will be the restrictions if and when there are changes in the community quarantine status. What can be offered, pwede ba sila mag face-to-face, kailan hindi. And then again, this is from the draft CHED directive. Aside from the development of the learning platforms, we also have to assess. Kasi iba-iba, remember, nasabi ko nga, we are 492 ROTC units. While we may have a standard set of material, we will have to assess the capability and environment in these areas. For one, ano ba ang available devices doon nung student at the same time nung nagdi-deliver ng instruction. What is the internet connectivity? Iba-iba rin kasi, yung iba nga wala. That's why perhaps a different, baka yung broadcast or a radio can be one way. Depende na yon kung paano mapag-aralan. And of course, hindi rin naman kami nagmamagaling kasi bago rin kami dito. Not all of our ROTC instructors have the level of digital literacy that will be needed for this kind of training delivery for this year. So we were very thankful to PISNE and CHED for allowing us to be part of this webinar because meron kaming small strokes that we have started, but it's really different when it is taken from the perspective of the academe. So, salamat po ulit na nasama kami dito. So, this is just some of the things that we have been doing in the Army. No? Ngayon, ang ginawa namin, and we will implement this in our ROTC units, we designate a safety officer. Kasi despite all the reminders and the restrictions and yung mga nababasa natin, there are still some who forget, no, nakakalimutan o minsan na they become complacent. So the designation of a safety officer is maybe something that we can all do so that meron lang parang kung sa parang ano siguro to sergeant at arms, no, nung mga nasa eskwelahan tayo, somebody who will call attention of individuals if they are violating the protocols and restrictions. And also at the Army level, we have also been implementing some of our changes in our core activities. And this is something that we will implement not just for our students but also for our DMSTs, no, yung ating Department of Military Science and Tactics that are situated in the higher education institution. So kung dati physical conference ang required, we will be adapting to what is the new normal. And also, hindi na rin yung mass gathering na kung kailangan maramihan, we will reduce the number of people that we need to talk to because of the protocols that we need to follow and others. I don't know if this is something that HEIs follow sa Army, although nahihirapan pa rin kami dito, we call an individual contact tracing list. No? So, for example, we have conferences. So, somebody takes a picture para alam mo kung sino yung mga nag-attend doon para kung sakasakaling merong isa sa kanila mag-positive later, then you can already inform the others to isolation as a way also to reduce the risk of infections. So these are the adaptation measures that we have been implementing. Again, nasa simula pa lang kami. Marami pa kaming hinahabol even in the presentation of the materials. But with the lecture, with the webinar that was where we were included, we have many areas there where we can improve, and we're thankful again for the opportunity that was given to us. So, yun lang po ma'am, sir, ang aming presentation, and we're open to questions from the members.
Thank you very much, Colonel Alcudia, for the presentation. At this point, the floor is now open for your clarifications. Pero we still have common comments po sa chat box at saka sa FB comments. The participants, they're requesting for a copy of the approved directives or guidelines in the implementation of ROTC in the new normal.
Yes, ma'am, we will be giving that. But can I just request na this will be presented to them by the commandants and not by our ibang schools. Kasi yung commandants din na mag-explain sa kanila on how this will be delivered. And I think it will be better that way so they can already make some arrangements on how they will do it. Kasi hindi rin naman iba yung infrastructure na gagamitin ng ating mga commandants with the infrastructure in the higher education institutions.
Thank you, sir. Isang concern po sa FB that we gathered from Director Rovelina Hacolbia. Sir, as indicated in your matrix, suggested na limited ang interaction during GCQ. What if the school or institution decided that there will be no face-to-face interaction?
Again, ma'am, as I mentioned, we cannot come up with a sweeping guidelines for all our ROTC units because it will be dependent on the local community quarantine status and also kung ano yung arrangement nila sa schools. So yung ating ROTC commandants, ma'am, will have to adjust based on the requirements or the restrictions given by the school. Kasi syempre the safety of our cadets is also our priority. So yun yung mga one of the things that we have been looking at is really babalik kami to the time where we give reading materials and then the students do self-directed learning. But at this point, we have really not decided how we will go to the evaluation and assessment portion. One of the things na pinag-usapan namin dito, yung Google Classrooms nga, where everybody signs in at a specific time. We give a standard time-constrained examination as a way to gauge learning. But everything, ma'am, will still be localized. Hindi po siya standard para sa lahat.
Colonel Alcudia, Lieutenant Colonel Flojo, meron pa po from Carcar City College.
Yes, ma'am.
Pag-graduate na po ba ng CWTS, then gusto ng student kumuha ng ROTC, pwede po ba yun?
Ma'am, hindi ko alam sa policy ng school. But as far as I know, if you complete one, you have already completed the requirement. But sa amin sa ROTC, if they want to participate, if they find the topics interesting, ano lang naman yun, ma'am, we can share the material because we recognize also na baka yung iba kasi hindi lang nag-offer yung school nila ng ROTC. That's why they chose what was available. And now that there is an option available, they see an interest. So we were not curtail the interest, but again, it is dependent on the school's policy.
Ma'am Cynthia, clarification lang po.
Right, ma'am, Flor.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, Flor.
Okay. I just want to make a clarification to Sir Ronald Jes Alcudia regarding the guidelines set forth in behalf of the military. But sir, how about those ROTC handled by the Marine? How do you reconcile your guidelines? Because there are schools having different ROTC sources like military and Marine at the same time. So how are we going to reconcile this one? Is there any office that will provide the overall guidelines? that will be serving as a way for the implementers, especially the institution, to follow?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I think si Lieutenant Colonel Flojo would be in a better position to answer that kasi sa GHQ sila. I'm also aware, ma'am, na merong mga ibang HEI na dalawa yung ROTC unit doon because of the courses offered by the school. What I presented, ma'am, is just for the Army. Siguro what can happen is the Army and the Marine commandant there can have their coordination, but I will defer it to Lieutenant Colonel Flojo, who is speaking for General Headquarters.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. As I have said before, kanina na we give general guidelines for our rescoms to follow. So may ginawa rin mga kanya-kanyang POI yung mga major services na based doon sa kanilang competency, kaya ng Air Force, based on air operations, ang Army, Ground, and Navy, sa Sea, so Marine. So may different sila na based doon sa kanilang competency. So regarding sa protocols naman, they must coordinate with each other na sundin kung ano yung existing, gaya na sinabi ni Sir Alcudia na dapat nagko-coordinate sila sa schools, guys, para doon sa proper protocol na iral doon sa problema during the conduct of the
I asked that question, sir, because they have only one director in NSTP, but that director will be will be working together with different commandants, with different specific guidelines. That's why how do we unify all these things together is a point for us to be clarified.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I would suggest, ma'am, that maybe if this can be specified na lang, and then our J9 can call for a meeting on how we can align the guidelines of two services. Kasi yung purpose naman talaga, ma'am, of the guidelines of GHQ is how we can implement the program based on our specific training plans, but guided by one set of general guidelines. So kung ma-specify na lang, ma'am, we'll appreciate the information.
Ma'am Cindy.
We'll be waiting for that.
Ma'am Cindy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Major Pava.
As a rejoinder, ma'am, based on the revitalized ROTC program prior to the new normal, the military science one is common to the three major services. In other words, they have a standard training that is common to the three major services. I think what matters is the military science too, because it is competency based, which deals with peculiar skills. So the problem is in the HEI why they came up with two ROTCs. So siguro pag, when we sit down again in the technical working group, that's part of what we are going to correct or rectify if need be, so that mawala po yung confusion. But as far as the revitalized ROTC program, based on one briefing that I have attended before, yun nga po yun, yung program of instruction ng ROTC, like military science one is really common to three major services. Yun lang po. Thank you po.
Thank you so much, Major Pava, for the rejoinder. Thank you, Colonel Alcudia, for the response, as well as to Lieutenant Colonel Flojo for the response. And thank you, Dr. Flor Labugen, for your intervention. Any more clarifications, please? Eugene, meron pa ba? Paul?
Ma'am, question po from FB Live.
Okay
Galing po yung galing po yung tanong kay Melanie. Ang tanong niya po is, how can we assess the proper and correct execution of skills and drills of students with no connectivity?
Again, yung nasabi po namin na problema, talagang yung drills kasi you really need some physical face-to-face, or if not, one of the options is you video yourself and then present it. Pero ang sinasuggest po namin, in the second semester where we hope it will be, the environment will be better, then there will be an occasion where a drill or maybe a limited interaction where it can just be presented, may evaluate natin. Pero hindi pa ho namin nakikita how we can do that now. All options open ho kami on how to evaluate the performance. I think it's the same also with the other program components. Dahil yung physical interaction will be limited. So may mga binabago din siguro sila sa kanilang subjects and evaluation assessment.
Cindy, may nag-raise ng hand. Salty Lagos.
Okay po, go ahead. Please proceed po sa inyong clarifications.
Saldi Ilagos.
Yes, good afternoon po. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon po.
Yes sir, regarding doon sa aking, may napansin po kasi doon sa PUI, ng first semester and second semester, follow up lang po ito doon sa drills and ceremonies. Siguro sir, for suggestion, pwede nating pagpalitin yung drills and ceremonies from first semester PUI to second semester gender sensitivity and personal development topic. Kasi yung drills and ceremonies more on hands-on talaga to sir.
Yes sir, thank you for the recommendation. Actually, nasabi po namin na we are flexible of shifting some of the subjects in the first semester to the second semester. In fact, if we are able to deliver the drills and ceremonies na from an off POI or an asynchronous learning system na they can watch and then they will perform and then I don't know kung i-video or something, pwede rin po natin magawa yon. As you've seen, hindi na ito katulad ng mga dating programa natin na tad-tad tayo. We have so many periods allocated for drills and ceremonies because our units are pressured to come up with a Corps of Sponsors presentation, a graduation parade, no?
Yes.
So we focus on really the individual basic skills. What we hope to do is if they really want to learn more, not just for the drills and ceremonies, they take the advanced program because that is where we will provide more training to them para mas ma-develop yung kanilang kaalaman. But thank you, sir, for the recommendation.
Yes sir, kasi based on our survey dito sa aming area, we have some problem encountered, like for example, yung bata wala naman pong accessibility sa net.
Internet.
That's a big problem. Second sir is they don't have own computer to watch yung drills and ceremonies. So siguro po mas the best kung ganun nga yung magiging outcome natin, na pagpalitin na lang po yung subject nung first semester to second semester.
Opo, bali katulad po ng nasabi namin, the ROTC commandant will now be required to develop a master training schedule to suit what is allowed in the community quarantine of the respective area. So doon po natin ipapasok yon how the commandant will implement the program.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Noted, sir.
Thank you po.
Cindy. May question pa po coming from Tomas Banyes.
Okay, Sir Tomas Banyes, and then followed by Sir Nars.
Babasahin ko na lang, ma'am.
Sige, Eugene.
Our school is offering ROTC as one of the NSTP components. Our ROTC reservists are requesting for advanced ROTC. What will be our basis in offering advanced ROTC?
Actually, sir, the advanced ROTC is provided for in the law. That is in Section 39 of Republic Act 7077. Hindi naman niya na-amend by the NSTP. But it is not already covered by the NSTP. Now, ang commander ho namin, he actually had a discussion with Chairman De Vera because that is one of our findings, that student undergoes the advanced program but does not gain any credit for undergoing a training. That's why kung mapansin mo, Eugene, I always ask about this yung associate degree on national security and public safety. That is, as I understand, was already nandyan sa CHED. Kasi this is one way by which we can provide for some academic credits for those who take the advanced course. So kung ang tanong is ano ang basis, there is a provision in Republic Act 7077 that was not amended by NSTP, and that is the provision of a voluntary 2-year advanced program in the HEIs.
Thank you very much, sir, for that answer.
Thank you, Eugene.
Mr. Nars, CHED Regional Office 8. Your clarifications, please.
Ma'am, okay na po yun. Yun na po yung dapat kong itatanong kasi sinasabi po sa akin ni Dr. Banyes na itanong po regarding doon sa ROTC. Offering advanced ROTC. Okay na po yun, nasagot na po.
Hindi, Eli Sotiaco raising his hand. Eli Sotiaco.
Hello. Okay. Sir, you mentioned about the serial number. Hello.
Yes.
Hello,
yes.
sir. Okay, sir.
Yes.
Since I'm the coordinator of the NSTP in San Mateo Municipal College in San Mateo, Rizal. Okay, one of my students who are actually graduated already, and I mean NSRC to be considered. Then he wants to come or to let in the ROTC. Now, yung serial number is actually napakahalaga po ba ito? Is it very significant? Kasi the registrar actually give the NSRC serial. Ang register na po kasi namin na nagbibigay ng serial namin, then it is forwarded to the CHED. Now, sir, parang hinanapan yata siya ng serial number. So, paano po ba ito maire-reconcile between the CHED who is already given to the CHED already the serial number, then your office, the military office, parang hinahanapan ang hirap maibigay. Paano maire-reconcile yon, sir? Yung serial number na yon. Where in fact, the registrar of the school na ngayon ang nagbibigay. Before the release of the CHED, parang nabago na po yata ang bigayan ng serial number. Dati nagre-request ako sa CHED. Ngayon ay parang pinaubaya sa school registrar. Paano po ba yon?
Ah, sir, hindi ko po masasagot yan. Ang sa amin po sa ROTC, kapag nag-graduate po ang aming kadete or mag-graduate pa lang siya, the commandant requests serial numbers from the AFP. So we give our serial numbers based on AFP policies. I think what you're raising, sir, is a CHED policy on the NSRC serial number. So, hindi ko po alam kung ano yung proseso doon. But as to the significance, sabi ko nga ho kanina, for the past number of years, we have not really operationalized it. So, hopefully, it will come to a point na maging ano siya, maging maayos natin yung proseso kasi yung tinatawag po natin na community-based reservist is actually for the NSRC. It is not for the military. Kaya pinasok ko po yung portion na yun sa umpisa kasi para ho ma-situate na kami sa ROTC, we train for military preparedness. So yung preparedness of the NSRC na napakahalaga din, hindi po namin saklaw.
Sir, kasi gusto niya pumasok, parang naging reason pa ito ng hindi pagpasok o tanggapin ng military.
Hindi po talaga namin siya matatanggap as a reservist in the military dahil ang requirement po niya na matapos na course is ROTC. Kung CWTS or LTS po ang kanyang kinuha na kurso, doon po siya sa NSRC, not sa ROTC, not sa reserve force namin. But there are ways by which they can become reservists, military reservists. Ito po yung tinatawag naming basic citizens military training that is offered in the different local governments but sparingly. Kaya po importante nga po yung pagpili na kung ano yung pinili mong program, yun talaga yung gusto mo. Kasi hindi ka pwedeng mag-shift pagdating sa reserve force na sasalihan mo.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po.
Okay.
Dennis, Paul, meron pa bang mga questions?
Sa FB Live po ulit, sir. Sir, with regards to the module, can we get a unified module or is it really necessary that we create our own module?
I'm sorry, I did not get the question. Pakiulit po.
With regards to the module, can we get a unified module or is it really necessary that we create our own module?
Hindi po. Sa amin po sa Army, we will come up with one module for all Army ROTC. As I mentioned, we will be providing this to our commandants and then the commandants will be discussing this with the NSTP directors to synchronize how it will be delivered utilizing the same infrastructure or the same flexible learning system offered with other NSTP components. Bali, mag-iiba lang naman po talaga tayo sa content.
Sir, okay na po tayo sa FB Live, pero may naka-raise po ng hand.
Raise ng hand. Scar Fernandez, naka-raise ng hand. Scar Fernandez, you are recognized, please.
Hello po.
Go ahead, sir. Mr. Carl
Hello,
Fernandez.
yan. Good afternoon po. Magandang hapon, Ched and Pisney. Siguro if I may share lang po, based on the experience ng aming pamantasan sa De La Salle po, since we're on our way to finish the MS 2 this term. So since we're following a trimestral curriculum po, gusto ko lang pong ibahagi yung binanggit kanina ni Colonel Coludia. Sir?
Alcudia.
Alcudia, sorry po. Alcudia, Colonel Alcudia, no, yung regarding po sa practical, kasi that was also a concern during our planning stage last summer in preparation for the upcoming term. So we started our third trimester last July, and ito nga pong ROTC was raised as a concern considering na practical po yung mga exercises, no, na gagawin. So what we did po, tama po yung binanggit ni Colonel Alcudia na with regards to the yung video demonstration na pwedeng isend sa training staff and cadet officers. That was naman po made possible because we're utilizing the learning management system. So prior to the ECQ po, the LSU has been using the learning management system, which is Canvas, and true enough po, nitong nag-implement na po kami ng ROTC kasi this is the first time na ginawa siya on the online platform, no? Naging maayos naman po yung daloy. Siguro if I may share po, siguro very crucial talaga yung close coordination ng staff, ng ROTC staff sa training staff ng ROTC, including po yung regular na pagpupulong kasama o katuwang yung mga cadet officers natin, yung mga student cadet officers. So with regards to the feasibility po ng practical exercises, nagagawa naman po siya. Meron din po kaming ginawang mga synchronous sessions at saka asynchronous sessions, tsaka mga modular self-paced learning. So so far po with the regular consultation meetings, maganda naman po yung naibahagi ng mga estudyante kasi they have their own evaluation system. We also have our regular consultation meeting with the cadet officers, yung mga students naman po, to get feedback, no, weekly feedback. Actually, weekly feedback is advised para from there, kumbaga ma-address agad yung mga urgent concerns needing immediate actions. So yun lamang po. Maraming salamat po rin kay Colonel Alcudia. Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you po doon sa sharing niyo. Actually, yun po yung isang gusto rin namin i-request sa ating mga NSTP directors, and our ROTC commandants will also be advised, because there will be some HEIs who will be better off than other HEIs. Alam naman po natin yan, kunyari lalo na sa state universities na iba-iba yung ating mga per unit. So we will be working with different resources. So sa amin po mga ROTC unit, hindi na po namin sasabihin yung parang copyright. If there is an available material that works for one, that can be shared for another, gagamitin po natin. Kasi ito naman po ay gusto natin yung learning ng ating mga kadete. Sasabay po sila because we also want a foundational knowledge para pag yung mga nagpo-volunteer namin sa advance, wala pong huli. Sasabay po yung kanilang kaalaman sa ibang mga eskwelahan. So, thank you po sa sharing na yan, sir.
Thank you rin po, Colonel Alcud. Siguro, sir, dagdag ko lang din kasi nabanggit kanina yung connectivity issues, no? Paano yung hindi makasali kasi may intermittent connection. So, ang ginagawa po namin, recorded lahat yung mga sessions or orientation and other practical sessions para they'll be given enough time, yung tinatawag po namin na self-paced, mabigyan sila ng chance na mabalikan ano yung pinag-usapan nung nakaraang Saturday or sessions. So they can do it offline. Basta po recorded yung aming synchronous sessions. Mabigyan sila ng chance marinig or mapanood yung natapos na session. So yun po. So we have offline din po. We allot time for them to review lessons from the past sessions. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you po.
Meron pa po bang clarifications? rejoinder from the TWG. So with that, once again, thank you, Colonel Alcudia and Lieutenant Colonel Flojo, for your presentations. At this moment, may I turn over the floor to one of our resource person, Dr. CJ, Dr. Vidal, for some announcement for the day 5 or session 5 session of this webinar series to be held tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Cindy. Tomorrow will be our last day for our webinar series, and we will have for our last session development of learning packets or modules, and we would like to inform each one that we will be having our session in the afternoon, and this is in view of the fact that we are having difficulty in devising ways to proceed with the right shop. So we will have a half-day session only for tomorrow. And we will make some important announcements as to how we can come up with outputs based on the discussion pertaining to the development of learning packets or modules tomorrow. And for those who just joined our webinar series, this is our third of the 4 series of sessions. We started last week, and we had for our first session an overview on the guidelines insofar as the implementation of flexible learning by Dr. Alfonso, and some basic concepts and principles by yours truly. On the second day, we had Dr. Flor Labugen, who presented to us some considerations in the planning, facilitating, and assessing in the purview of flexible learning. And yesterday, we had a detailed discussion on learning management system in coming up with virtual classroom with our session with Professor Wilben of Mariano Marcos State University. And today we had Professor Doris Wilson of UP Baguio for the migration of CWTS LTS program delivery. And of course from J9, Lieutenant Colonel Flojo. And from the Army unit, we have Colonel Alcudia on the guidelines pertaining to the implementation of ROTC in the new normal. So that is all for our announcement this afternoon. Thank you so much, and back to you, Ma'am Cindy.
Thank you very much, Sir CJ. At this point, may we request Ralph to flash the registration link for the session 5.
Cindy. Cindy. Cindy.
Yes, sir.
Hindi, Eugene. Si Sir Paba, baka mayroong kung ano, may si Sir Paba.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ralph. At this moment, let us now listen to the closing message from Major Hermie Pava, PISNAY.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Cindy. Good afternoon again to all the participants and our invited speakers for this afternoon. Congratulations to the 952 participants, which is
Sir
90
Paba, medyo mahina
participants.
yung audio niyo, sir.
How about that one, sir?
Okay, sir. Yeah, loud and clear,
Okay,
sir.
okay. So we are 90 participants short of yesterday's webinar because yesterday we have 1,042 participants, but today we only have 952. But anyway, thank you so much for attending the fourth webinar series. And in behalf of the Philippine Society of NSTP Educators and Implementers Incorporated, we would like to extend our gratitude to Professor Doris Wilson, Assistant Professor of the College of Communication of the University of Baguio, and Director of Ugnayan ng Pahinungod of the same institution for sharing her insights. Allow me to recap for emphasis about her talk this afternoon. She made mention that in this new normal, we cannot start from what we don't have. That is why she shared about the ADI model and the TPACK model and other models, but she emphasized what was utilized by UP Baguio about technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. So according to her, we start with content knowledge to be followed by pedagogical and technological knowledge. And she also posed a question on how do we deliver NSTP, which is more behavioral and skills based. And she said where we have to start. So she made mention about know your content. Think of the content and think of how to deliver it. And she also emphasized about what's next. So she made mention about you have to curate the content by anchoring your NSTP implementation based on the goals and objectives of the institution and the NSTP course objectives. So she cited one example, the disaster risk reduction management as one of the theoretical training phase in the 25 hours common module where they localized it and made it implementable in the University or UP Baguio and in the Cordillera Administrative Region. She also shared some thoughts on LTS and CWTS in the time of COVID-19. Like for LTS, she cited about collaborative weblog for LTS, like videos, slideshows, and for CWTS, she made mention about household waste assessment like solid waste reduction action plan, vermicomposting, and our other COVID-19 related activities like face mask making, airloop face shield, and other the promotion of health protocols. And we hope that with this, NSTP may be able to go for transition to flexible learning. And on the part of Lieutenant Colonel Romel De Floto, Philippine Air Force General Staff Course of the Office of J9, he shared to us important reminders from the Armed Forces of the Philippines in relation to ROTC implementation in the new normal amid the COVID-19 pandemic in view of the mass gathering, which is the very nature of the ROTC training. So one point of emphasis that Lieutenant Colonel Fluto mentioned was about the second sem of school year 2019-2020 were considered to have completed. Now, those students enrolled in the ROTC program were considered to have completed the program regardless of what stage they have completed in the ROTC training, and that the ROTC shall be continued to be offered in all HEIs, and they will be adapting the flexible learning system developed by CHED, and it is highly encouraged. And other more guidance which will be shared to the NSTP directors through the ROTC commandant. And thank you also. We would like to extend also our gratitude to my good friend, Colonel Ronald J.S. Alcodia, the Chief of Staff of the Army Reserve Command and a member of the PMA class of 1993, where he presented about the ROTC, Army ROTC program in the new normal, where he shared to us the historical development of the ROTC and made mention also about the citizen army training and the ROTC, which was provided under sections 38 and 39 under RA 7077 or the Reservist Act of 1991, which was amended upon the inception of RA 9163 or the NSTP Act of 2001. He also presented a revised program of instruction, which is composed of 6 modules, and made emphasis that the Military Science 1 is an introductory module as a preparation to the advanced military training or a gateway for those who wanted to become Army commissioned officer. And then he made also an emphasis that the Philippine Army right now under the new normal has designated safety officers and made mention also about other initiatives so that the Philippine Army through the Army Reserve Command and the Army ROTC could adapt to the new normal. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending the webinar, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow, 1 to 5, and we hope that you learned so much in this afternoon's webinar series. Again, in behalf of the Office of Student Development Services of CHED, represented by Director Sylvette Gunigundo, and our friends Ma'am Cindy, Sir Eugene, and the rest of CHED, SNAE, and all members of the Technical Working Group, thank you so much and a wonderful afternoon to everyone.
Thank you, Sir Paba.
Thank you, Sir Paba.
Thank you, Ma'am Flor. Thank you, Sir CJ Vidal, Colonel Alcudia, Colonel Blojo. Maraming pong salamat sa inspirational talks niyo po.